This is Life Transformation Radio. Prepare to engage. Seatbelt activated. Download initiated. Your quantum journey of transformation begins in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. Hi, I'm Rob Actis, best-selling author of The Law of Action, voice actor, business mindset coach, the podcast whisperer, and Mr. Action himself. Here at Life Transformation Radio, we are committed to share more about real life, love, the power of positivity, romance, and of course, laughter. We care about helping others find their internal drive and purpose. We celebrate life's challenges and overcoming them. On the show, my guests are amazing people who are forces for good in the world around them and live a life of transformation. My guest today does just that. Jetta Blaine is a certified Kambo Practioner. She's also a yoga teacher, Thai bodywork practitioner, and lifestyle integration coach. She has traveled the world studying and living different healing modalities in search of equanimity for her mental and physical health. She is a living example of post-traumatic growth and credits Kambo and plant medicines as the forefront guides on her healing journey to her once crippling PTSD and depression. She hopes to become a catalyst for others on their own paths of self-realization and sees it as her life's dharma to serve Kambo. Jetta, my very dear friend, welcome to Life Transformation Radio.
Thank you, Rob, for that wonderful introduction. I am just so happy to be here.
Absolutely. So we talk about transformation, and you've had some significant transformations in your life. And I think that mental health is not running rapid, but let's just say that with the pandemic and all the things that have happened in the world over the last couple of years, people's mental health, I will say that a lot of people are struggling right now.
Yeah, to say the least. It seems like, I don't know if it's more people are struggling or more people are just coming out about their struggles with it, or they can't ignore that they're struggling any longer, you know?
Well, I think through podcasting, and not just this show, but other shows, that we've taken the stigma away from mental health. And I think that's really, really important. I think it is definitely increased. I mean, even just finding out about it, but I definitely think that this pandemic has really driven people in spaces in their brains that they never thought they would be. I mean, at one point in time, I remember when this was going on, I was like, wow, like, are we going to get out of this? Like the mask thing. I remember watching TV and I got pissed at the TV screen. I started swearing and like flipping off the TV screen because they were at a party. And they weren't wearing masks. It was an old movie. And I was like, God, are we going to always have to wear masks and be like afraid of everybody? And, you know, your mind goes spinning and spiraling out of control. And even just the day-to-day life, not even a pandemic, but the day-to-day life can set you spiral.
It really can. I think too, with the pandemic, it took away so many of our distractions that we had for so long, you know, because we couldn't socialize as easily, like how you just said. A lot of our work lives changed, our home lives changed. And as a result, we were really forced to sit with how we really felt inside. And I feel like through that in itself is part of the reason why so many people have really struggled. It's like, once you can't suppress anything any longer, once you take the bricks off, what's there? What's the baseline? What's coming up? So I feel like there's been a lot of different reasons why, and a lot of, you know, people that have really needed help throughout it. But I'm really happy that it has kind of created this mental health revolution. Like you said, talking about things, podcasting, on social media, whatnot. I think it's really important that we're at the place that we're at, but that we also continue to move forward and kind of pioneer this untread territory in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things you talk about is that you had PTSD and it was crippling. And a lot of people suffered from depression. And you mentioned that you had depression. So let's just peel that onion a little bit and let's talk about where things were at and how your life was when you were depressed, and then what the PTSD is from, if you wanted to share that.
Of course. So when I was really depressed, my life, it looked a bit like manic depression, honestly, but typically it'd be about every 3 weeks, I would hit a very deep trough. And that trough would look like suicidal tendencies or suicide ideation. It would look like lethargy. It would be really challenging to get myself to do things. And I would isolate a lot. I'm typically a really sunny person, and people didn't always see that side of me. I kept it behind closed doors. And then it was also really challenging for me to sit still. I would then hit manic episodes afterwards where I would empty my bank account. I would go into really crazy binges and purges with food. I would be out of my body and dissociated for weeks at a time and just kind of going through weird motions like I was looking at myself from somebody else's point of view. So it was really extreme. And for a long time, I thought it was normal until I couldn't ignore it anymore that something was up and something was wrong. And a lot of it was because of a traumatic childhood that I'd experienced with a lot of really crippling insecurity, parents that didn't quite know how to support me or our family, and also just, dealing with the trauma of our society. I lost a sibling when I was really young that really catapulted things into a lot of insecurity. And then experienced a lot of different kinds of abuse from a very young age, housing insecurity, you have it. So I had a very extreme adolescence and then broke my back in high school, broke my face shortly afterwards. So there was just a lot of thing after thing after thing after thing after thing that kind of compounded into, this masticized depression that I had been experiencing.
Wow. Kind of speechless in that you went through all that. And, you always want to find the words of like, well, I'm sorry that happened to you. And you can't really say that because who you are today is really a part of your past and how you've worked around that or worked with it and worked through it. And so I'm trying to think of the word that I can say. My heart goes out to you, to your child, for what you experienced, and even to the point of your back issues and breaking your face. I mean, that's a whole another ball game. And who I know you to be today is you're this strong, powerful alpha goddess, really just radiating love and energy and flow, and you're a healer. And it's just incredible that you went through what you went through, and now here you are today. And I think that's a really inspiring story, how you have overcome that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It definitely feels like the hero's journey in a lot of ways. I'm not going to lie. A lot of really having to push through, and I didn't know what was on the other side or what even I was pushing through, but a lot of just one foot in front of the other. And at times just having to allow myself to be bulldozed by life. Something that plant medicines have really taught me is that, I'm really grateful for the things that I experienced when I was younger. And I never would have told myself, when I was going through them, that there was some kind of like divine order behind it or a reason, or that I'd be grateful for all the trauma later. You just can't tell a child that when they're being abused. But now looking back, I have found a lot of gratitude for it and found a lot of the benefits I've gotten from it, like my strength, my compassion, my ability to see and be in touch with, that which isn't physically there, which I find to be a very great tool for myself and also for others. So I am grateful for it in a lot of ways, but it was definitely a lot.
Absolutely. Well, in talking to you earlier, you mentioned that the things you struggle with are the things that you hold on to the tightest. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
I mean, the things that we struggle with are typically the things that we have that are there when nothing else is or when nobody else is. And so oftentimes the things we struggle with the most, it could be some kind of tendency or addiction. It could also be, for me, it was loneliness for a long time. I held onto my loneliness very tightly, almost as if it was a lover of mine, because it was there when nobody else was. And I had formed a sense of identity around it. Same with when I really struggled with eating disorders for years. I held onto them tightly because when nobody else was there, I had that coping mechanism that helped me dissociate and get through really difficult times. And even though it's not necessarily like I liked my loneliness, which I still have to a certain extent, or liked my eating disorders. But there was a subconscious part of me that really needed those things, that kept them really close and kept perpetuating them in a lot of ways subconsciously around me.
One of the things that people talk about is that you need to hit rock bottom before you can do your 180, before you can flip the switch and have your life. Did that happen to you, or how low did you go? How far did you fall, and did you hit rock bottom? And was it all you, or did you have support from other people saying, "Hey, we need to support you and get your life on track"?
I hit rock bottom a couple times, through a couple of different mediums, a couple of different ways. I mean, I hit rock bottom at one point in college when I was just trying to kill myself repeatedly, and it just kept on not working, basically. And that was when I finally reached out and got help for the first time from a mental health professional. I went to our student disability services on campus and told them what was going on and that I really needed help. Another time I hit rock bottom was I'd been in an abusive relationship for a year and my whole body was freaking out. I was having night terrors every night. I didn't know what was going on. My mind felt really confused, like I was living underwater. And I did have some people, especially during the latter time, that would be like, "Hey, we think something's going on here. We think you need some help." But I wouldn't say I actually had that great of a support system through any of it. I'd say a lot of it was I just realized I needed to severely change something and that I needed to trust myself that anything would help me to get there. But it was still very challenging at the same time. But through that, I discovered stuff like plant medicines when I was getting out of my abusive relationship. Very shortly after, I experienced homelessness and a lot of instability around that. And I did have my ayahuasca community that I would go and sit with. And I had Kambo, which I felt very called to serve. So I spent a couple months living out of my car, going and just serving medicine and finding stability and support within that and through the act of service.
Wow. That's amazing. So let's talk about Kambo and the plant medicine. And, I think it's going to be very interesting. A lot of people, I was asking before you came on, I told a lot of my friends, I was said, yeah, I have this guest coming on and she's really a practitioner of Kambo. And no one knew what it was. And I said, oh, well, it's African frog and it's the poison from the back of the African frog. And they're like, oh, how do you know that? And I go, I'm a worldly guy. I know these things. Actually, I learned it from you, Jetta. So share with me exactly what that is and the impact it has on people and also the transformation of how you discovered it and the journey that you took to have the conversation with Kambo.
Yeah. So first off, Kambo is the secretion of an Amazonian tree frog. So not quite African, but Amazonian. It hails from
so
Peru.
close. Oh, it's wrong.
So close.
No,
the other A.
No. Oh, okay. All right. That's all right. See, I just fake it till I make it. That's all good. Okay.
That's all.
Amazon.
That's all we can ever do in this life. But it's the secretion from an Amazonian tree frog from phylum Medusa bicolor, the giant green monkey tree frog, and all it is a secretion from the frog. And when we take it, what it is in its most simplest form is a strong detoxing purgative. It's not psychedelic, but it's in the same vein as psychedelics in a lot of ways. People often use it to prep the body for a psychedelic experience, namely ayahuasca, but it in itself is not psychedelic, and it's also legal in every country in the world. And when I say that it's a strong detoxing purgative, what I mean is that it is like the world's strongest detox, basically. So the experience takes about 20 minutes that you're actually sitting with the secretion on you and experiencing it. And it's usually punctuated by extreme nausea. There's usually purging involved, vomiting, really. But there can also be other kinds of purging, bottom purging, shaking, crying, all kinds of things. Kambo itself, though, is actually really scientifically backed. Its peptide content is really good for the brain and body. It's a potent antiviral. It breaks the cell wall. It cleanses you on a cellular level. It cleanses your brain and breaks the blood-brain barrier. It fights depression, anxiety, chronic pain, inflammation. It can reset your digestive system. And they use it pharmaceutically to treat cancer, actually, and a couple of other different ailments and diseases. So it is widely used. However, it's not used quite as often, as applying it ceremonially altogether for the whole experience, like it's been done for thousands of years in the depths of the Amazon.
Okay. So did you experience Kambo first, and then you're just like, I need to facilitate this for other people? This is a transformative experience, and I'm just curious how you started using it, and then how do you become a practitioner? Because I think about it, and I was humbled just looking at you and thinking of you, and it's a very intimate process, and it's a very vulnerable process. And with the purging, people I would imagine might be self-conscious if it's coming from the top and the bottom. And that's something that, you're there to support them because of their transformation that is available to them and the healing that's available to them. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. As we change our inner world, we change our outer world. And Kambo very much so changes the inner world. The first time I sat with it, I was living in India, and it was really funny. I saw a sign that said Amazonian frog detox, and I looked at my friend and just said, I know what this is and I have to do it. But I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know why I said that. It was like something spoke through me almost, and I was just like, okay, whatever, we're going to do it. And so I sat with it, and I never thought I was going to sit with it again. It was very physical. Kambo does have this otherworldly spiritual component to it that can really help people break through mental blockages, traumas, change the course of their lives in a lot of ways. But, we can't explain that scientifically like how we can with the peptide content that I mentioned earlier. But oftentimes, if people are into psychedelics or the first time they sit with it, they think it's just purely physical and that they can't get other things from it, which just quite frankly isn't true, especially if you continue to sit with it. It really can surprise you in a lot of ways. But the first time I sat with it, I was just like, oh man, these medicines aren't for me. I'm just going to stick with yoga and meditation. And then a year later, a friend asked me to sit with her with Kambo because she didn't want to do it alone. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it again. And it really helped me that second time to purge a lot of abuse that I had experienced that wasn't mine, a lot of trauma that was sitting really deep in my cells. I believe that since Kambo breaks the cell walls, as it cleanses you on such a deep level, it really helps with the cellular memory that we have around different experiences in lives, and then possibly even past lives. That's a part of your belief system. And for me personally, it's helped me realize a lot of ways that I was perpetuating my trauma in my adult life, and just helped me rid myself of all of this energy that was really stuck within my body and creating dishealth.
How long ago did you do it?
2018 was my first time sitting with it.
Wow. So recently. And I've been serving for a little bit more than a year and a half. So going on 2 years now. And so how widespread is the use of Kambo in the United States? And how widespread is the use of it in the United States right now?
Wider than you would think, actually. I always get surprised by some of the people that get in touch with me for ceremony. Like I've served everybody from Apple executives to people who have cancer or to people that have severe depression, anxiety, things of that sort. Also, as like a shamanic medicine, for lack of a better word, it typically has a really interesting way of communicating with people that it's time to sit with it. Like oftentimes people will hear about it and then they'll see frogs or hear frogs croaking or dream about it, and then they'll get in touch with me. It's really amazing. It never gets old hearing about how people first heard about it.
I can just imagine someone who's listening here, and here we are talking about an Amazon tree frog that you extract the poison from its back, and you have a ceremony and you experience pretty incredible purging to transform your life. And they're like, what the heck am I listening to right now?
I know it sounds so crazy, but really, it's interesting with Kambo because you tell people about Kambo and they have one of three reactions. One reaction is it's like it goes right by their ear and like they don't even hear it, like they're not phased. Another reaction is they're just like, oh yeah, I have to do that. And then the other reaction typically is a what the hell, and they get almost like offended by it because it's different. But one thing that I do want to state is that, this is a medicine that has been used for thousands of years by indigenous tribes in the Amazon. There's a reason it's still around. And even though it goes against our Western paradigm that we have formed when it comes to medicine, that doesn't mean it's not effective. It's just different. And I don't think many people can disagree at this point that our paradigm and approach when it comes to medicine here in the United States isn't as effective as it could be, considering the mental health crisis that we've been experiencing, the opiate crisis that we've been experiencing, all the different chronic illnesses that plague people. Being sick is the normal here. And it's not like our paradigm that we have is really helping people as opposed to just kind of alleviating their symptoms and keeping them in a financial loop so that they keep paying into a system. Kambo's very effective. It's very scientifically backed. It just brings you into a state of discomfort and catharsis, which our system frowns down upon. But maybe that's what we need instead of suppressing everything to allow it to come up and out.
Well, I think things are changing rapidly. I know psychedelics are becoming so mainstream right now.
Yeah.
Like I before this pandemic, I don't think I ever heard anybody in my circle of friends or influence ever talk about the fact that they did psychedelics. Like never. And just all different walks of life. And I've been quite fascinated about that. And I just saw on the news that they are actually doing scientific research on the psychedelics. They're talking about legalization of the mushrooms. Even MDMA, I think is what it's called. The psychological. There's a Netflix show that they're talking about it. Someone just told me about it, but it's just amazing how mainstream it's all becoming. How our consciousness is changing and our conversation is opening up. And it's interesting because when all this stuff crosses your path, there's a reason for it. Like 100%. When the ayahuasca, crosses your path, or the psychedelics crosses your path, it's when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and a lot of people referred to Kambo or psychedelics as the teacher, and so I find it quite fascinating how things are changing. And I also love the fact that the stigma of it is changing, and that, who would have thought in a million years that you'd have a show on Netflix, which is a giant network, and there's multiple shows on psychedelics and mind-altering substances, and really fascinating. So I think people are finally opening their minds, and I think that Western medicine definitely has a whole. That's a whole nother story. I won't even go down that path. But I love the fact, and especially on this show, that we can talk about alternative avenues of getting to where you want to get, which is peace and tranquility and happily ever after.
Yeah, I love that too. You've created such a great platform for people to find different ways to transform. The journey to transformation isn't an easy one either, because oftentimes you lose friends, family in the process. And psychedelics can really have the potential, as well as Kambo and frog medicine, to show you how good life can really be. They can get you in touch with your actual desires without the influence of the people that you grew up with and have surrounded yourself by, or the standards of society. But it's up to each person in their individuality to implement whatever lessons that they get from their psychedelic experience or from their Kambo experience to actually get there tactfully and in real life. There is a certain level, I believe, with these medicines that allow people to just kind of walk through that doorway on their own, because they do work on an energetic level, very real, but there's still a lot of really deep hard work that's involved. And so I think it's wonderful as we destigmatize all of these things, because it helps form more of a community for people who are seekers, who want to attain something higher, who want to take responsibility for themselves and create a life that's more worth living. So I'm loving that we get to talk about that here and that it's just becoming a greater conversation all around.
Yeah, it's fun. It's one thing I noticed during these last couple of years is that conversation has definitely increased because a lot of distractions are not there anymore. And so I think relationships have been impacted in good ways and bad ways. Mm-hmm. I love the conversation about, ancient healing medicine. And I was just having a conversation this morning about sweat lodges and how you go in and you do the sweat lodges. And, these ancient practices have been around for so many thousands of years. And, here living in Arizona, we have Sedona, which has all kinds of really incredible different practices there. And, when you're called to do whatever you're called to do, when you're called to do it, and you don't have to be convinced. I don't think anybody's ever been convinced to do Kambo or ayahuasca or DMT or psychedelics. It's just before them and they're on a journey.
Yeah, it's really funny. The first time that I sat with Kambo, it was like I had this crazy intrusive thought again, like how I had when I first saw the sign for Kambo. And this thought said, "You're ready for ayahuasca." And it was literally right after I thought, "Oh man, I can't do these medicines. Just meditate. I'm a yogi, whatever. I'll meditate my way through my suicidal episodes." Yeah. And so when I heard this thought, I literally turned around and was like, what? That's not what I just said. And it's funny because then a year later, ayahuasca found me. And somebody asked me to come to their circle and to help facilitate Kambo. And because we give Kambo oftentimes before ayahuasca because it makes for a better ayahuasca experience. And I was so resistant and so hesitant and continued to be resistant and hesitant for ayahuasca for my next several times experiencing it. But it just felt like some kind of call that I knew I had to listen to. And it really helped get me in touch with my fear, with different things that I'd been holding on to inside, with resolving a lot of my PTSD and just seeing what I had gotten out of it in the end. It's not uncommon for people to be really thankful for trauma after an ayahuasca experience. But it brings you into the beauty of existence and also the darkness of existence. And so it's important to have responsible facilitators within that. But there is like a heart call oftentimes that people feel, and that's why they approach something so scary or so unfamiliar.
It's funny. I think back to the movie Jumanji with that drum beat, dum, 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 dum. Kambo's calling, you hear the drum beat of Kambo. Bum,
yeah.
Bum, 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 bum.
I love that you say that.
Or the croaking of a frog. It's very interesting. I find all this so fascinating. And what I find fascinating is that I've been on this earth for a long time and never heard of it until recently, just a few years ago. And then you brought it up in our conversations and I was like, well, I know about that. And was just, it. And I found it fascinating because when I first discovered it, we were in Hawaii. And when I first discovered it, it didn't even faze me, which I find fascinating. Like none of this stuff fazed me anymore. The last couple of years, probably a little longer than the last couple of years, but even before the pandemic. But it's just interesting how your mind opens up and all of a sudden you're just like, yeah, I'm okay with this. It's, I feel like I just kind of like let life unfold and these mysteries and all these different practices that are showing up in front of me. And it's quite enlightening to see how powerful all this stuff is and the results.
It sounds like you're really peeling back the layers of conditioning too, as you open your mind to alternative modalities and as you see and meet other people who have had really great experiences from them. And I'm sure in some ways have had, great experiences with other alternative healing modalities yourself.
Yeah, I will say, I had a blood clot and I was supposed to die and I didn't die, which I'm really happy I didn't die.
Me too.
I know. Thank you. Thank you.
So sad.
Thank you. I know. I'd be sad too. And I remember that, I just laid in bed for a couple months and tried to not die. And you have a lot of time to do a lot of inner work, a lot, and process. And you experience spiritual transformation. One of the things that occurred when I was there, I don't know if I got it. I don't think I got it, but I think the volume, and it was amplified, is my intuitiveness and my empathic ability. And I was like, "Whoa, that's new." Downloads. Okay, that's interesting. And just these words that I use now and where I am, I mean, here to have this show, Life Transformation Radio, it's just so different than what I was before some of the traumatic experiences that I had in my life. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I'm not going to say weird because I think language matters and I think that the words we use matter. So I'm going to say it's a really beautiful thing. The experiences that I'm having and have had, and the people that are coming into my life, and it's a beautiful thing.
I really love to, hearing your blood clot experience and how you had such a near brush with death and something so uncomfortable for us as primordial beings. Yeah. We can get a lot of beauty out of that darkness. We can get a lot of beauty out of the discomfort, out of facing our fears, and just sitting with whatever it is that we've been handed. Through that, we're able oftentimes to catalyze really deep change within us, or to find whatever modalities really work for us that give us reasons to live. And that just put things into such a greater perspective. Oftentimes we shy away so much from darkness or from pain or discomfort, when oftentimes those are great, great, great teachers that can really put us on to a better trajectory for ourselves.
Absolutely. So what is a final word or words or statement that you can make about Kambo and integrating that into someone's life?
Yeah, so I'll try to keep it brief because I could just keep on going on for ages. But I just want to say with Kambo, don't put it in a box. Don't put it in a box because it makes you uncomfortable, or because the idea of putting yourself through nausea, just sounds totally unrealistic for you and like it doesn't make sense. I would say keep your heart open to it. And if you're a spiritual being, ask the frog to show you whether or not it's time to sit with it. It can catalyze really deep change within us. And that oftentimes becomes very scary on a very deep primordial level. And the negative ego can come in and kind of shut it down or turn it away. When oftentimes it can really be helpful and beneficial to living a better life. And if Kambo does call to you, if, it does speak as something that you need to experience in this life, or like it could be helpful with bursting through a block physically or mentally. It works on both planes. You can find responsible practitioners here within the United States. I'm in the Bay Area of San Francisco. And then I also travel. I do retreats. I have a retreat coming up in India in October. But you can also find other practitioners in your area via Kambo International's website, or the IAKP's website, the International Association of Kambo Practitioners. And it's important to have somebody who's gone through, good training in your country of origin, so they know kind of what your life has been like, and they can really hold a better and safer space for you. Lastly, I also want to say integration is really important. Like I mentioned earlier, all of these things show us how good life can be, how good we can feel, but it's up to us and our humanness to put them into play. So having support can really be helpful with that, or learning to be really honest with yourself when you're going and reaching towards distractions or things that are no longer good for you that you hold on to really tightly. So that's a lot in closing, but they're all very important.
How do we reach you?
Yeah, so I am an integration coach too. I do plant medicine, psychedelic integration, Kambo integration, lifestyle integration, as well as serve the actual Kambo itself. And you can find me on Instagram at Moonflower Kambo, which Kambo is Kambo, Kambo. And then you can find me at moonflowerinsights.com, or email me moonflowerinsights@gmail.com. And I hope to hear from as many of you as the medicine speaks.
I love it. Thank you so much, Jetta, for being here today. What a delight. learning about Kambo and just get to hang out with such a cool human being. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, it's always so cool hanging out with you, Rob. I feel so blessed to have met you, and just keep doing what you're doing. Keep making people's days brighter. Keep shining that light.
Thank you. And thank you so much for your support and taking time out of your busy and precious day or night to listen. So appreciate it. Thank you for allowing me along my very special guest, Jetta Blaine, to touch your heart, move your soul, and inspire you to live a life of transformation. I'm Rob Actis. Until next time.
This is Life Transformation Radio.
Download complete.